All right, so this is the presentation to my research paper. All right, so this is mathematics and humanities relating to my major and my career. Alrighty. So my aspiring career is a behavioral profiler, which is in the BAU, which is Behavioral Analysis Unit in the FBI, and that is analyzing criminals' behaviors to try and catch them. So again, with the behavioral analysis, criminal profiling, profiling in general is super intriguing to me, and working at a federal level is even more intriguing to me. And so I'd be looking to identify criminal behavior and catch criminals based on that. Inspiration of this is the show Criminal Minds, Mindhunter, and Prodigal Son, and possibly my aptitude for puzzles, because I really like doing those and solving things and reading people and things like that, like interpersonal relationships and stuff like that. I would like to consider a lot of my inspiration. So how this relates to units from class is sets, probability, problem solving, and statistics. And within the statistics unit, specifically correlation and regression. And I'll get into that in a second. So with sets, what I really like try to precedent and explain or place an extreme precedent and explain it in my paper was that sets is like the fundamental part of what profiling is. So with sets, we had different data sets, and we were comparing and contrasting them using Venn diagrams. And so I would be using, within my field of profiling, I would be using groups and classifications of criminals, criminal behavior, and of their criminal actions. So a big thing with the FBI and what they do is they have databases and averages of criminals, their behaviors, their actions, and you really get to figure out how they think and what they do, or think and how they act. And so with that comes groupings of certain criminal characteristics. And so what I talked about in my paper was I would be using a lot of these comparing and contrasting within solving crimes. So certain criminals do this, certain criminals do this. Like, how do they mesh together? How can we predict their behavior based off of what these criminals did? You know, it's just a predictive factor. That is awkward, whatever. Probability. So probability. A big thing with this, or I would like to say my aspiring career and how it relates to class, is the use of probability. So with usage of profiling in certain cases, profiling increases the chances of predicting behavior in criminals and then in following, catching criminals. So I don't know if there's actual data to support this or not, but I know from conversations and panels explaining where profiling has tremendously helped a certain amount of cases, like the Richard Jewell and the Lincoln Park bombing, I think it was, is an example of that. Profiling had a dead-on profile on the person that led them to the wrong person, but in the end they found the right person with the correct profile. So profile, which was just like who this person was, what they have done, and like stressors, that stuff like that. That's a whole complicated thing, but yes, the big thing is probability. So with the increase of usage of profiling, the more likely and higher, the more likely you are of catching the criminal. So you're increasing your chances, increasing the probability of catching them using profiling. And you have an increase of actually predicting their behavior as well through those averages I was talking about before in sets. Problem solving. I would like to say that problem solving is kind of the overarching topic of the math units, in the sense that I'm solving problems every day as a profiler. I'm solving crimes, solving crimes versus solving problems. Again, that's basically what I'm doing. Problem solving, looking for solutions, solving crimes, looking for solutions. How was this person killed? How was this person attacked? looking for clues, body position of corpses, like methodology of how people are killed, things like that, and how in homicide cases where I'm solving those problems. Analytical thinking, that's just a typical thing. Within problem solving is analyzing what you're looking at and using the correct information. I know in a couple examples from class, we had problems on Lumen and classwork where we had to filter out some useless information that either Lumen was trying to trick us with or just questions like that in general. You had to use some analytical thinking to filter out some of those non-important details. And in psychology or profiling in general, there's going to be a lot of pieces of information that are just not going to be relevant to certain cases within profiling. And yeah, that just basically relates to all the topics from our unit. You know what I mean? Just problem solving in general. I mean, math, we're just solving problems constantly. And so that's that. Statistics. Okay, here we go. This is where it gets not complicated, but sort of complicated, and relates back to the probability portion of my presentation. So with statistics, correlation and regression, a strong relationship. There's a strong relationship between profiling and crimes solved. So using profiling increases your chances of catching criminals. So that would be a positive correlation, and between the two, I would say that relationship is pretty strong. I used the Lincoln Park bombing example. It led them to the wrong unsub, or what's the word I'm looking for? Criminal at first, but in the end they got to the right person using criminal profiling. And so there would be a strong relationship between the two, not a causation necessarily, but just a strong correlation between the usage of profiling and catching criminals and solving crimes. And so I liked to finish off my presentation with just something that I concluded my paper with, which was the fact that psychology is math and math is psychology. I kind of interconnected the ways of rationalizing, theorizing, computing, and compartmentalizing certain pieces of data and information to try and make assessments and to try and solve problems, which is what you'd be using in both fields, math and psychology, I guess, as a whole, and profiling. And I use the example that psychology is like the science of human behavior, and math is the science of space, numbers, and quantity, and like solving those quantities, spaces, and numbers, and solving for each. And I just kind of said again that there's a relationship between certain skills in each group, again relating to another topic in class. But yeah, so I just finished off with psychology is math and math is psychology. So that is my paper presentation explanation.